It's been 12 years since the launch of GTA 5, and it feels like we've got 12 more until the sequel comes out. Plenty of time to play these other games you may have slept on. While initially starting out as a more grounded, open-world crime game like Grand Theft Auto, the Saints Row series quickly veered into over-the-top action and irreverent humor. This is especially true of 2013's Saints Row 4, which opens with the player character becoming president of the United States after stopping a terrorist attack. This is followed by Earth being invaded by a hostile extraterrestrial empire known as the Zin, who abduct the player and most of his associates. The player must escape from the Zin and thwart their plans of destroying the Earth, all within the franchise's typical wacky humor and explosive spectacle. Saints Row 4 miraculously amps up the franchise's goofiest elements, without somehow getting lost in its own campiness. The action remains as engaging as ever, and the comedy, including actor Keith David memorably playing himself, never overstates its welcome. After the harsh reception to the 2022 Saints Row reboot, Saints 4 remains the pinnacle of the franchise. For anyone looking for a considerably less self-serious open-world experience, Saints Row 4 delivers on that score.
お待たせしました。龍が如くゼロ。ついに任天堂スイッチ2で発売です。
Sega have been producing Yakuza, aka Like a Dragon games, since 2005, and decided to go back to the beginning of the franchise's timeline with 2015's Yakuza 0. Set in 1988, 17 years before the events of Yakuza Kiwami, players control a younger Kazuma Kiryu after he's framed for murder. This places Kiryu at odds with his Yakuza clan, forcing him to find a way to clear his name without their help. The game also reveals the history of another Yakuza figure, Goro Majima, who struggles to earn his place back in his clan after a prior disgrace. Critically acclaimed, Yakuza 0 was also a huge commercial success that also sold well overseas, prompting Sega to escalate its localization efforts for the franchise. As a prequel, the game is perfectly accessible to players who haven't tried out a Yakuza game before, as a fantastic starting point. The game offers an immersive and vibrantly 80s vision of Tokyo for players to explore, complete with its own side activities and missions to dedicate countless hours toward, refining the series' fan-favorite hard-hitting action while providing players with a lovingly throwback version of its open world. Yakuza 0 is still one of the best games in the franchise. The other big open-world franchise published by Rockstar Games is Red Dead Redemption, with 2018's Red Dead Redemption 2 primarily set in 1899. In the final days of the Wild West, the player controls outlaw Arthur Morgan as part of a gang run by Dutch van der Linde. Sensing that their way of life is coming to an end, the gang plots one last major heist to pull off before retiring. However, while facing increased pressure from the authorities and getting pulled into brutal local conflicts, internal friction threatens to tear the gang apart. Red Dead Redemption 2 expands upon the level of freedom and wealth of experiences available from its predecessor. The game also introduces mechanics similar to the GTA games, while players maintaining peak performance by eating regularly and cleaning their weapons. The title's online experience was also significantly revamped, offering a standalone experience from the main game with its own line of gameplay modes to try out. A full expansion of what made the preceding game so wonderful, Red Dead Redemption 2 changed gaming and rivals Grand Theft Auto 5 as Rockstar's greatest achievement. CD Projekt Red's wildly ambitious technopunk action game Cyberpunk 2077 has come a long way since its shaky 2020 launch. Set in the sprawling metropolis of Night City, the game features a dystopian future where cybernetic enhancements are common and megacorporation malfeasance is an accepted way of life. The player character, known simply as V, is implanted with a biochip containing the digital memory of legendary terrorist Johnny Silverhand. As Johnny begins overwriting V's personality and memories, the two must work together to separate themselves, which involves taking on the sinister Arasaka Corporation. The level of immersion that CD Projekt Red created for Night City is all the more impressive when you realize how much Cyberpunk 2077 had to cut before launching. Like Grand Theft Auto, players can focus on the main questline, but the real joy is in exploring Night City and interacting with its darkly thrilling world. Expanding the game further was its well-received 2023 expansion, Phantom Liberty, placing V on a mission to rescue the president. a game that completely overcame its shortcomings by reinventing itself through patches and other post-release content, Cyberpunk 2077 eventually lived up to its own ambitions. After the Mafia trilogy channeled classic mob movies like The Godfather and Goodfellas to deliver its period piece thrills, 2025's Mafia: The Old Country looked to the narrative's roots. Set in Sicily in the 1900s, the game follows Enzo Favara as he joins the crime family of Don Bernardo Teresi. As Enzo works his way up the ranks of the Teresi family, he grows closer to the Don. This is complicated by Enzo's growing disillusionment with the constant violence and the Don's murderous paranoia as he strikes up a romance with the Don's daughter, Isabella. The big thing that sets Mafia: The Old Country apart from its counterparts is how sumptuously its Sicilian setting is brought to life. While more linear than its predecessors, the prequel does offer chapters where the player can explore and appreciate the wider environment. The third-person perspective and combat certainly echoes Grand Theft Auto, while adding its own flair to the gameplay mechanic. A beautifully rendered, if somewhat nuanced entry in the series, Mafia: The Old Country is a solid title for GTA fans.